All right, so thanks for joining me. This is Successfully Selling HUD Homes. I just wanted to go, all HUD Homes are put in both FMLS and Georgia MLS, and they're also, if you want to see, they're also available on HUDHomestore.com. You can see all HUD listings nationwide, which is actually pretty cool. But if you click on the state, you'll see all the shaded ones. There are actual HUD homes in all of these states. The blue ones here, there are no properties. So New Hampshire, Delaware, and DC, there are no HUD homes currently in those areas, but there are in Georgia. So when you click on the state, it will take you into all of the HUD Home Store listings. Currently, this is for the entire state. There are 5 total HUD homes for sale. I did this back in January. I think there were like 3. And last year, when I did it, fourth quarter, there were none. All right, so inventory's on the rise. It's coming up fast, right? But this is where you go. This is also where you go to register to become. When you first joined our firm, Karen gives you a HUD letter and also gives you the instructions on how to go and create your account. You should have created one, so you should have it. All right. So let me leave that there and let me start this. All right, let's see here. Perfect. The best resolution is the one I'm using. PEMCO, I'll kind of get through this. Welcome to PEMCO Limited. PEMCO is our HUD asset manager, right, for Georgia. They also have Alaska, Oregon, and Washington, but they are actually headquartered right here in Atlanta. And they lost the contract for about 3.5 years or so, and just got it back in 2021, okay? So HUD, or PEMCO, is our main contact here. They're the asset management company. There's actually a different name behind it, but I won't get into all that. Right here, we're gonna go intro to HUD, showing HUD Homes bidding processes, HUD contract packages, under contract properties, closings. Just kind of go through everything. This will give you a full understanding of HUD sales in 30 minutes. I don't think so, but again, we can help you with anything that you really have a question on, or even submitting your offers. This is kind of the breakdown of how HUD works. You have your HUD Hawk Home Ownership Center. Then you have your mortgage compliance manager. They're based out of Texas. They do all of title work, all that stuff. You have your field service manager. They're the people who secure the properties, make sure all property preservation is done. And then you have PEMCO, who is the asset manager. There's only one per state now. Back in 2009, there were 3 in the state of Georgia, just because of all the properties. And then you have us here, the local listing broker network, which we're a member of. All right. We currently have 1 HUD home. It's over in Marietta, Oxford Road, if any of you have seen it. It's been a pretty hot little property, but it went under contract right away. Again, the mortgagee initiates an FHA claim. This is kind of just how the whole process works here. Goes to the MCM, then it goes to the field service manager, then it gets assigned to the asset manager. At any point, if anything does not quality control, it goes backwards. So, and it'll just go in circles until it is all clear. Once it is all clear, this talks about the mortgage compliance manager. There's 1 nationwide. There's 1 per state on the field service manager. There's 1 per state for the asset manager. And then that's the regions again. They contract a local listing broker, which is our firm. If you didn't know, our full legal name is Southern REO Associates, LLC, doing business as Century 21 Connect Realty. So everything on the HUD website actually shows Southern REO. So don't let that confuse you. Hopefully I didn't. Our responsibilities as a local listing broker is to list in the MLS systems, place a sign in the yard. We do weekly inspections and reports on the property. There are broker, it's like a CMA. What's the word I'm looking for here? I just lost it. But we do all kinds of different reports for them throughout the process. We're here to provide customer service to any buyers or selling agents who are inquiring about the property. And we're here to make sure it gets full market exposure. And then we also deliver the earnest money check to the buyer select closing attorney. So the buyers choose their own closing attorney with HUD. What's this? selling agents play a critical role in the success of HUD sales program, which is you all, right? Keep your eyes and ears open. If you see anything, or, let us know. We want to hear from you. Any licensed real estate agent can sell HUD homes. Brokerages, not individuals, that are actually registered with HUD. So we have a number that you all should know that allows you to register. It is STHRNR 8345. Like, I know all these silly numbers. When we register with HUD, it allows you all to get it. It's the NAID number, STHRNR 8345. Just goes through the whole process. We did all that stuff, what they expect from us as agents. HUD homes are not low-end housing. Contrary to popular belief, what's the FHA lending limit? Anybody know it?
650 something.
All right, so a HUD home is an FHA-backed mortgage that went into foreclosure, right? So they can be up to $654,000 for the loan amount, not the value. So 3.5% down, basically $700,000, right? HUD, all HUD properties are sold as is. There's no warranties, guarantees, representations about the property, and whether or not it's FHA, insurable, or otherwise. There are no repairs other than safe, secure, and marketable, right? And HUD will do those automatically. But if something happens, we'll get into that later, to the property while you have it under contract, they still don't do any repairs and you can't do any repairs. Buyers are allowed and encouraged to get independent home inspections. Buyers do not typically acquire bills and liens. So it comes clean, free of all water bills, all that sort of stuff, right? Who can buy a HUD home? Anyone, but there are three categories. You have owner occupants, you have investors, and then you have government agencies and HUD approved nonprofits. And first choice of all HUD homes is this government agencies and HUD approved nonprofits. So nonprofits for the county can buy them and they can fix them up and sell them as low end or as affordable housing homes, that sort of stuff, or give down payment assistance will come in on some counties. Owner occupants then fall in line second, and then last but certainly not least, investors. They're given priority, owner occupants given priority during certain cycles. They must occupy the house for 1 year, all right? And you can't have two HUD homes purchase a HUD home, a second HUD home within 2 years, all right? Investors, there's no restriction on quantity, but again, they have a different bidding cycle. HUD uses a bidding process, which we'll get into later. Properties eligible under HUD special programs will list in a lottery round, which happens before it's listed. And this is, some of the lottery rounds include GNND, which is Good Neighbor Next Door. Teachers, firefighters, EMTs, and police can actually get a HUD home with 50% off, basically. So we'll get into that more, though. And then if you want to become a HUD approved nonprofit, you go to HUD.gov and go through all that. Good Neighbor Next Door eligibility will be indicated on the listing. I have never seen one of these in the state of Georgia, so it's a unicorn. But it's a good talking point, and we'll get into it a little bit more in a bit. Good Neighbor Next Door design and enhance communities by offering HUD homes to those three for 50% off list price and $100 down payment. So that's an absolutely insane program. But again, I have yet to see one in the state of Georgia. All right, so don't know where they are. Must be in a designated revitalization area. Buyer has to live in the home for 36 months. Buyer nor spouse may have owned title in the last 12 months. And you cannot have ever been in this program before, for obvious reasons, right? Kind of goes through 100% of list price. I won't go into all that because they're unicorns, right? There are some talking points if you want to hear more about it, if you want to learn about it. I can do that separately and get into detail on it. If you can get in front of a bunch of teachers and talk about something, have something to talk about, it's just a way for you to get in front of them, although this program isn't really available because there aren't any homes that I've ever seen. Sir?
The last slide, it said 100%. You have to do 100%
Of the list price, yes. In the Good Neighbor Next Door program.
Oh, okay.
So in order to get 50% discount, so if it's a $200,000 listing, you have to offer $200,000. They're going to get the home for $100,000. They still have to qualify for $200,000, but they'll get the house at the end of the 36 months. There'll be I don't know what I can't remember exactly what they call it. It's like a blind second mortgage. It's like there's a second mortgage sitting there for the $100,000. After the 36 months, it's released to them. It shows paid off. So if they try and sell it within that 36-month, HUD is going to get all their money back. Make sense on that? All right.
So they're like more so unicorns because there's not houses that meet those requirements?
I haven't seen one available for anybody to actually bid on ever.
Gotcha.
I mean, if they were there, if I had ever seen one, I'd be like, well, it's kind of, it's more like a three-eyed fish, but it's a unicorn. They just don't exist. Well, in my world, they don't. I don't know about any else. Again, $100 down, and it just kind of goes through the whole process with you. Resources for agents, PEMCO-Limited, other important sites. HUD.gov. If you didn't know, HUD.gov is also where you can see whether or not condos are fee simple ownership or condominium ownership, whether or not they're registered on the HUD website. HUDHomestore.gov is where all the HUD listings are. And then, of course, social networks, all that stuff, PEMCO. PEMCO Limited HUD/events is where this was actually advertised to all of the world to join, but nobody wanted to join us from outside. Thank y'all for being here, though. Create a bidding account. If you have any questions on that, Karen goes through all this with you when you join. So you all should have a HUD bidding account. You should have done it because you never know when you'll need it, right? Because HUD homes are listed just like any other home. So when they come on the market, just like the one that we got in Marietta, we actually had 4 or 5 different agents go, hey, how do I submit on this HUD home? And we're able to walk them through it. Right, so HUD properties available for sale. Our sign will be in the yard. You can actually do advertising all around the property on other brokerages' listings, if you didn't know that. So that's something else that I can talk to you all about. You can put signs up at the corner that says HUD Home this way with your name and your phone number on it. Instead of, you're pointing them to the house and telling them which way it is, but you can actually advertise. You have the right to advertise. HUD Home Store link, just unlisted HUD properties, all that stuff. These are some of the acronyms used, listing codes. IN stands for insured. UI stands for uninsured. I think you all know what HOA stands for. F is for floodplain. LBP, you all know that, and IE is insured with escrow. So the 3 that you want to know, that you want to look at here, are insured, uninsured, and insurable with escrow. Those are all HUD financing categories, okay? So when you go to buy a HUD home, it is insurable. That means that it will pass a HUD inspection no problem. If it is uninsurable, that means it needs lots of work, more than what HUD is willing to do for it. And then if it needs under $10,000 worth of work, insurable with escrow, and HUD will actually allow you to escrow that money. So let me kind of go into that just a little bit while I'm talking about it. Insurable with escrow. So you have a $300,000 house, right? HUD says you have to put 3.5% down, right? On your typical FHA mortgage. If it is insurable with escrow and it needs $7,000 worth of repairs, you can actually pair HUD's $100 down program, which is available, and escrow the rest of the funds. So if it needs $7,000, you put $7,100 down, and that's all you have to do. You don't have to put the 3.5% down typical for FHA mortgage when you're buying a HUD home. Does that make sense? So it's a great deal. I mean, you can do a $100 down payment with FHA financing on a HUD home and escrow the repairs. Once the repairs are done, that money will be sent back to the buyer. All right? F, flood zone HOA, I just went through those. Lead-based paint stabilization, HUD will fund up to $4,000. Just know they will only do that if it's FHA financing. At the point that you change financing or anything, the buyer is going to be responsible for paying that money back. Get familiar with FHA. This is the insurable with escrow, and uninsurable. Like I said, insure with escrow, repairs less than $10,000. Pair that with the $100 down program, and you're good to go. You can get in there. It's the same thing, right? Instead of putting the money down, you're putting it towards the escrow, and you can buy the house. Repair escrow only applies to FHA 203B. It's not a gift. You cannot do repairs prior to closing. It's added to the mortgage. The sales price remains the same. There are a list of required repairs, and the lender is responsible for the repairs, license contract, and determining the repair amounts, right? So talk to your lender, work with your lender if you're trying to do the repair escrow stuff. They're going to need to know how to do it, or you're going to run into problems. Properties list dailies. This is the bidding period. HUD does a bidding process. They don't do offer submission. You go to Hud Home Store, you submit your bid on it. All right. There's a sealed bidding period, which we'll get into in a second, daily bidding or extended bidding, and general market listings or all other properties. The lottery round happens before it goes on the market, right? This is where the good neighbor next door comes into play. This is where the nonprofits and government agencies get a chance to make their offer on it, right? After that, it goes into general market listings. They are insured with escrow and insured homes. They go into a 30-day owner-occupant exclusive period. HUD wants owner-occupants buying their homes. They don't want investors, all right? They have 10 days from the initial where there's a sealed bidding period where all bids just go in the Hud Home Store. Everybody's submitting their bid. The highest net offer to HUD, which I'll go into in just a second, is who will win it. After that, there is 20 days of daily bidding, and all bidders are allowed on day 31. So investors can then bid as well. On uninsured, it is a 5-day owner-occupant exclusive sealed period, and then all bidders are allowed on day 6. So that means the house needs more than $10,000 worth of work. HUD's not going to do any work, and most people aren't paying cash, or they weren't when this was made, right? So many people are paying cash for homes right now. Let's look at HUDHomestore.gov, how to search for properties, see the property condition report, which is their disclosure, virtual tours, bid deadlines, property contacts. HUD homes are sold via an online electronic bidding process, like I just said. Bids are submitted online. The information you need to submit your bid is offer price, type of financing, closing costs, your buyer's agent commission, which will give you the net to HUD and the buyer type. It's literally all the information that you have to put into HUD Home Store, right? You are supposed to have a signed contract with the buyer prior to submitting. That's what gives you permission to submit your offer with HUD, although I can pretty much guarantee that 95+% of agents don't do it that way. But you will want to get an email confirmation on this is what they want to offer. HUD has a new e-signature process. I say new. It's new as of about 6 years ago now, so it's not really that new anymore. Closing costs, line 5. HUD will allow up to 3% of the purchase price to go towards the closing costs and closing agent fees. The buyer is responsible for closing agent fees that are not included in the bid. Buyer is responsible for closing costs if there's insufficiency of funds to go towards the agent's fees. It's just a number, right? And then HUD will allow up to, that's the big thing, 3% to go towards agent commission. So you as the buyer's agent, and this is one thing that I can't stand about HUD, you have the ability to reduce your commission. You don't have that ability unless you get permission from us to do it. But in HUD Home Store, you can say 1% commission or 0.5% commission. Go ahead.
So I closed on a HUD home last year,
Hmm.
and the buyer's agent commission was already set at 2.5. But we put it in offer, because it was a very strange way to put this all in, because it was all new to me. But they gave us 3.5% of closing costs. Would that be because I only got 2.5%?
I'm not sure. I'd have to look at it one off. HUD only allows up to 3% for agent commission, so I'm not sure exactly how that happened.
It's been on the market for a while. I mean,
They could have been offering an agent bonus on it. That has happened.
I got 2.5%, but my buyer got closing costs for 3.5%.
0.5%. I couldn't answer that question. Your Your commission is negotiable though. So you could have gotten 3%. As a local listing agent, we can't set the commission at 3, 2.5, 2. You put whatever you want in that field online. And maybe it is a total of 6 where they allowed for 3.5% in closing costs because you took 2.5% commission. That may be possible, but I'm not aware of it. So that's news to me. And the listing broker commission is 3% regardless, that stays. You have prorations of property taxes, transfer fees, all that sort of stuff. There's a $200 repair escrow hold fee if it's applicable, and then recording fees. Commissions, well, this was a big thing back in 2010, 11, 12, around that time frame. But you don't see any homes listed for $33,500 anymore, but we had plenty of them back then. Standard 3% HUD commission applies over top of the minimum, otherwise it's the $1,000. Commission level is set by list price, which is what we just went over. Bids can be submitted 24/7 but are not reviewed on federal holidays or weekends. So on Hud Home Store you have bid deadlines. If the bid deadline falls on a weekend or federal holiday, it goes to the next business day is when all bids will be reviewed. So if you have a bid expiring, just this past Saturday night was the bid deadline. The bid deadline for that is actually Monday night because Monday, Juneteenth, is now a federal holiday. And then they reviewed all of those bids that were submitted in that period this morning. Daily bid deadlines are 11:59 Central Standard Time. Keep that in mind. So 1 a.m. here, 12:59 a.m. here, I should say. There is no time preference, so if you submit the bid at midnight or you submit it at 6 o'clock in the morning, it's all in the same period, right? Buyer only submit 1 bid per property during Friday, Saturday, Sunday time frame if all those days fall inside the same bidding period. Yeah, all that good stuff. Holidays. Listing broker is copied on emails regarding prelim bid cancels. So if you cancel it, we get an email on it, but nobody ever cancels them, I don't think. On the bid deadline day, all offers are reviewed and then accepted, rejected, or countered. HUD doesn't reject offers from what we see. They will accept one and they'll hold all others as backup. There's actually a checkbox on there as you're submitting your bid to hold your offer as a backup, and nobody unchecks it. So your bid just kind of sits there. Local listing broker will contact you with specific instructions for submitting contract, earnest money, all that if you win the bid. You'll get emails, all kinds of stuff. All offers within an acceptable range of the threshold will be countered with a final acceptable net to HUD. Because your bid may not be the only offer countered, please respond with your best offer. So that is for, so what happens, HUD sets a minimum net, say it's 200,000. If everybody offers 190, 195, 192, and they're all offers in this range, HUD will counter all of those offers to submit their highest and best above HUD's 200,000 net. Earnest money deposit amounts, $500 is never happening again. $1,000 for sales prices over 500 or 50,000 up to 250,000, and then $2,000 for sales prices over 250,000, which is pretty much the norm these days. That's set, it doesn't change. There's no arguing, there's no talking about it. Selling agent delivers earnest money to the local listing broker, not to the closing attorney, but the money would be made payable to the closing attorney. The payee will always be the closing agent. You have 2 days from acceptance to get the earnest money to the local listing broker, and then once HUD, PEMCO, executes the contract, we have 2 days to deliver it to the buyer select closing agent. All that stuff gets uploaded into a portal in the background that you will never see. Maybe entirely or partially forfeited or refund if the contract fails to close. So there's extension policies, all that stuff. I'll kind of give you this one. Owner-occupants and HUD, whenever an owner-occupant terminates a contract, they 99% of the time will get their earnest money back. When an investor signs a HUD contract, their earnest money is lost from day one. If they don't close, they lose it for any reason, even if it's HUD's reason, HUD's fault. So, yes, HUD will expect them to pay extensions and wait for the delay. They can't just terminate the contract. So it's a very interesting tight box that HUD has. You want to make sure all information is accurate to avoid the delays once you get the information, so get that for sure. Agent placing a bid must also make sure that the e-signature signer information is accurate, so you'll get all this stuff. It kind of walks you through. It's an e-signing process that they handhold you through. If you have any questions, if you get a HUD Home, come talk to us. Bidding on HUD Homes with e-signatures, same thing. It kind of goes through it all. Closing companies without an established title. This is the buyer select closing agent. So the vast majority of attorneys in Georgia have their own NAID number. They have their own established title ID. It's similar to our NAID number. You can get them signed up. If not, I would suggest if they're not signed up, you find another attorney. Check with the attorney first. Yeah, see, if they're not listed, that means they don't have one. Find one that is. Bid is accepted. You'll get emails from hudhomestore.com with a bid acceptance notice and a final verification, so you can verify all the information is accurate. It's just emails on emails. When you log in, you would go to accepted bids, and that's where you'll be able to see your checklist of items. Net bid amount 54,000. Yeah, I don't know where that house is, but yeah, must have been nice. Oh, Polk County, Silver Creek, Georgia, and Polk County. Yeah, so nowhere around here, right? You can save signer changes, edit the signer if you need to, all right there. Verify the purchaser. Do all that stuff. You can edit your purchaser here. Once you sign the contract, it's an act of Congress to get them to change anything. So make sure everything is right up front. Make sure it is, Charles and not Chuck, or James and not Jimmy, or whatever name change you want to use. Conflicts of interest. Yeah. All this sort of stuff. It walks you through everything. Earnest money's due. E-signature envelope kind of goes through all that. Again, this is all just e-signatures and walking you through contract execution. You get a HUD Home, I will handhold you through it. It's pretty self-explanatory though. Once PEMCO has signed the contract and executed the files, the package will go out through DocuSign. You have 1 business day to return a corrected contract. If there are any changes needed, or the contract will be canceled, HUD will move on to the next buyer. PEMCO Limited, HUD Forms, this is where you can see all the forms. If you go to PEMCO Limited, you go to HUD, their Forms tab, you can see all their contract corrections, change of financing, all that sort of stuff, but it is not fun dealing with those, all right? Changing financing from 203K to any other method of financing. The contract loses 15 days. Everything's retroactive. It goes through. You won't have to worry about that, I don't think. Changing financing from other cash to any FHA type. A lead-based paint and termite must now be ordered. Takes 5 to 7 days, 7 to 10 days for the lead-based paint extension. The cost of lead-based and termite is now absorbed by the buyer if you change from FHA to a non-FHA transaction. So once HUD orders those, you will be charged, the buyer will be charged if they change financing type, right? Must submit the lead-based paint addendum with amendment that reflects the changes. Yeah, all that stuff. Address changes, name changes. Let's not have any changes. Just check it and make sure it's all good up front, right? Amendments can take up to 72 hours to process. Again, we don't want to do those. We want those fixed up front. Make sure everything's correct up front. I can't tell you how important that is. HUD loves it, and it just makes everything easier for PEMCO. They're not real estate agents, so it definitely helps. Again, let's not have any changes. To the buyer, select closing agent, make sure they're all in there. Under contract, so once you go under a contract, there's a 15-day due diligence period for owner occupants. The borrower will be allowed to get a home inspection at any time during the process. You have to, all HUD homes are winterized. You actually have to go through a process to have the home de-winterized. Usually that is due to the reasons why they wouldn't de-winterize it is there's a plumbing issue. If there's a plumbing issue, just know they won't de-winterize it. You won't be able to test the water. You can have a plumber come out and pressure test the system because all the lines are drained. So they'll come out, they'll pressurize the system with air. Obviously, if there's a leak behind a wall, you will know it. Whereas if you just turn the water on and test it, if there's a leak behind the wall, it could be days or weeks before you notice that there's a drip there. You know what I mean? Does the system hold pressure or does it not? If it doesn't hold pressure, is it just at a faucet? They take a little soapy water, see if it blows bubbles, right? So it's actually a better way to test plumbing systems. So you have 48 hours to complete your home inspection after the last utility is turned on. Stipulations, termite, I'm not going to go into all that again. Of course, lead-based paint, built before owner-occupant with FHA financing, right? It's kind of obvious stuff here. Under contract vandalism. I will go into this real quick. So here's a scenario that is a real-life scenario. Properties under contract, the entire HVAC unit or the condenser unit outside was stolen. HUD gave a $500 credit to the buyer. That's it. So we all know that's a $4,000 repair. HUD will give you a $5,000. It may be higher now. It may have changed a little. This was 8 years ago or so. But yeah, they won't replace the condenser unit. They're not going to do any repairs to it. They're going to give you a credit, and it's not going to be what the value is. Just keep that in mind. They will give the buyer the option of terminating and giving their earnest money back, though, except investors. Remember, buyers cannot move in or start repairs prior to closing. I'll give you one quick one on this. Buyer closed on a home on a Friday. HUD's instructions state that they are to have the property rekeyed prior to doing anything. Well, they moved their stuff in, didn't rekey the property. The FSM went in to do their routine inspection that weekend and cleared everything out and threw it away that they had moved in there.
What?
Yes.
So they don't own the house and they just...
They do own the house, but they were told to have the locks rekeyed.
What's FSM?
The field service manager. They're the ones who do all the property inspections, maintenance, all that stuff. And they went in there with a key. They got a key. And looks like we have a squatter in here because they hadn't been notified of a closing that happened on a Friday afternoon.
Oh.
So change the locks.
Wait, but that was that afternoon.
That was the following day that they were in the property. But they didn't follow the rules of HUD, which clearly state you must have the key, you must have the property rekeyed prior to moving in. It's on the schedule, my man. It's a big machine, and they weren't responsible because they told you to have the property rekeyed before you move in. But prior to closing, you can't move in, start repairs, or do anything, right? And you as the listing, or you as the selling agent are supposed to be there at every inspection, all that sort of stuff. Where am I at for time here? Closing agent requests all HOA fees, yeah. Fees required. I just want to go into these are their standard closing days, 45 for FHA and conventional financing. Cash is 30 days. 203K financing, which is HUD rehab financing, is 60 days. This is the big thing here. Property sales cost, we don't have anything under $50,000. So it is $25 per day for your extension. You pay for it up front. So my contract's set to close this Friday. We're not going to close on time. You have to get a money order or cashier's check for $375 and submit it with your extension request. HUD will, for owner occupants, almost always give them a free first extension. Give the buyer a free first extension. But then everyone after that, even if it's a HUD issue while you're not closing, you still have to pay the extension fee. All right? It'll be prorated at closing and a refund given back to the buyer.
Do they forget sometimes?
What's that?
Do they forget about this sometimes?
Does who forget about it?
The other side, because I don't know, because I remember we extended, I think, twice. And I remember seeing this situation. And I was worried about the extension, but they didn't say anything, so we didn't pay anything.
In rare instances, owner-occupant buyer,
Yeah.
in rare instances they will, depending on the situation, do a second extension for free. But they tighten up pretty. HUD is very lenient with owner-occupant buyers. Okay, investors, never. It is full price. But no, I don't know why they didn't charge you on the second one. I can't speak to it.
I remember it was the underwriter that was the issue, but.
That's the buyer's underwriter, so HUD doesn't typically care. All right, must be submitted in the form of certified funds, like I said, and submit the fee and the request to PIMCO 5 days prior to expiration of the contract. Waived fees are available if there are delays by HUD, PIMCO, or the FSM. Owner occupants will be granted 1 free extension again. There's been a delay with financing, and all other buy documents have been submitted timely. 2 free extensions will be granted for 203K loans. So, yep, buyer not lender lock, all that stuff. Yeah, not happening. All right, recommend completing the day prior to closing. Your pre-closing walkthrough, you should be doing that anyways with all homes that you work with, right? Day before closing. Closing documents need to be the closing agent's office from the lender at least 5 days prior to closing, so keep that in mind. The closing agent needs to submit everything 5 days prior to the close date. Could cause an extension. Post-closing, the buyer can now have the utilities activated. Seller agent listing broker can ensure the buyer have access to the property. No keys are provided to the buyer and or buyer's agent. Buyer must have the locks rekeyed post-closing at their expense. So all that's written in the contract. That's what protected HUD under the scenario, under the issue that I gave you. That was a condo in Sandy Springs that happened at.
How did they get the key then?
The people, no keys are provided to the buyer or the buyer's agent at closing.
So how did they get in the house?
HUD has 4 keys. You're not necessarily supposed to know this, I probably shouldn't. They have 4 keys. Everybody in the country had those 4 keys at this time. They wouldn't open the lock boxes, they wouldn't do anything. So they just gave their buyer a
We
key.
got a key. We got 1. They left it.
They shouldn't have. The local listing broker should not have. Let me say that.
This is like up in Delmonico's. I wasn't even there. I don't think I saw the house.
All right. Yeah. So if they had just gone in and the FSM went in and cleared their stuff out, it would have been their problem. Hawks, thank you for attending. Any questions right now? Just know that if you guys get anything under contract HUD or have HUD questions, stop by and ask me. I'll be more than happy to walk you through it step by step, give you the answers that you're looking for. All right? Thanks.